Welcome to the 15th episode of Hot Boxing Talk, South Africa's very own online boxing talk show. We had our weekly chat with Cyril Lahong and Heerdan Jones talking about international and local stuff here in South African boxing and international boxing, as well as a feature on Chris van Heerdan. He's out here on holiday. We caught up with him and speaking to our very own Hekkie, the executioner Budler, on his last fight with Simpiwe Konko. This is the 15th episode of Hot Boxing Talk. He doesn't really need an introduction right here on Hot Boxing Talk. It's the one and only Hekkie Budler. Hekkie, welcome back on the show. First of all, congratulations. A very proud moment in all of our careers here at the Hot Box Gym. It was a tough, hard fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Yeah, it was a hard fight. Good one. Enjoyed it and gave him more than I expected.
So now I want to ask you this question. How do you rate him? Because we've been through a lot of hard fights together. I wanted to know, was he a tougher fight than Juanito Rubilar? And bearing in mind, Juanito Rubilar came in your career when you were still very green.
I think Rubilar was probably the hardest fight of my career because I was really green. But Kongo's tough. He's extremely tough. He can take a good punch. And he's not scared to take the punches, to land a few. He's got a brilliant jab, probably one of the best jabs I've seen in a boxer or faced against. No, he's brilliant. He's a good fighter.
It's no disrespect to Kosanati Joy, because we were in the dressing room when Nomeva fought in East London, and you and Kosanati are friends now.
Yeah.
But the first comment you made to Pumlani in your interview was this was a much harder fight than Kosanati. Why?
Kosanati, I worked out pretty quickly in the fight. I turned him, made him miss, blocked a lot of his punches. But I don't know. Konko's straight jab just kept on landing. I couldn't read it, I couldn't work it out, but it was a harder fight for me.
Well, you couldn't work it out up until the 9th round, and you changed the game plan.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Konko is going to be doing his preparations here in February. He's been promised a slot on the undercard, or possibly your fight in February at Golden Gloves. He'll be training here. What advice would you give to him? Because you guys are friends, there's been no issue. What advice would you give to him?
He must just work on his defense. I landed a lot of punches, and he gets landed on easily. There's nothing else really. His fitness is up there, because if he wasn't fit I would have knocked him out the few times I hit him. I'll have to spar him and see and talk to him when he's here, and then give him the advice and see what he would need to work on. 2013 you won Fight of the Year with Joy. 2015, I don't want to preempt things, but it seems like you're going to win Fight of the Year with Konko. How do you feel about your career right now and the achievements that you've made so far? I feel good about it. It's been good so far, but I believe there's still more for me out there. Still believe I can achieve more, and I want to achieve more.
A message to all the hot boxing fans who have followed your career.
Thanks for all the support, thanks for coming to the events, thanks for watching, and God bless all of you.
South Africa's very own, only unified IBO and WBA champion of the world, Hekkie, the executioner Budler, right here on Hot Boxing Talk. So there's lots to talk about this week on Hot Boxing Talk. We're first going to talk about the heavyweight division and Deontay Wilder fighting an absolute nobody, you could say, and struggling to stop him and taking 11 rounds. Your take?
The guy was tough. Deontay was hitting him with a number of shots, teed off him a few times. Eventually the referee had to stop the fight as a result.
Where does Deontay Wilder fit in the heavyweight picture?
He's the nearly man of the heavyweight division. You've got Klitschko, Povetkin, and then Wilder. Wilder beats everybody else, but he does not beat Povetkin or Klitschko.
Here's a question for you. How does Tyson Fury, considering his fight with Vladimir was called off due to an injury fight, Vladimir, go against Deontay Wilder?
That's an interesting fight. Deontay's a small heavyweight. He's not really a big heavyweight, so that would maybe be the biggest challenge of Deontay's career, and maybe Tyson Fury's career as well.
That's a great fight. Maybe they should be watching this and listening to us. What do you think? How do you think Deontay does against Tyson Fury?
I think it would be a tough fight for both of them, but I think Deontay Wilder edges it. Just
can knock him out. Considering Steve Cunningham put him over and he struggled, that would be a very good yardstick to see where Tyson Fury fits in. Let's keep it with Tyson Fury. His fight got cancelled with Vladimir. I believe he was never going to win that fight, but what's your opinion?
I also believe he was never going to win that fight. But it's still disappointing for him because he hasn't got that big fights in his career yet. As well, David Haye.
Correct.
So,
how do you think he was going to do against Vladimir?
Vladimir would have beaten him, but it would have been a nice fight to watch, simply because a lot of Vladimir's opponents are much smaller than him, whereas Tyson Fury wouldn't have that disadvantage, but Vladimir would have still won anyway.
Keeping it local and Leco, nearly 2 weeks ago, Hekkie, Budler and Simpiwe Konko put on probably the fight of the year for 2015. Your take?
Fight of the year definitely for 2015. Golden Glove shows keep on getting better and better and better, and Hekkie topped that with an awesome performance.
Hekkie admits that he wasn't himself early in the contest, pulled himself together, and Conco really brought out the best in him, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was an amazing fight. Had everybody on the edge of their seats. Yeah, I agree with Heerdan, fight of the year.
We were talking off camera, Cyril, and a fight that kind of brings to mind Bongani Molasi Lucky Luweli 2008, also a great fight.
Yeah, that was a brilliant fight. I remember back then, 2008, I spoke to Bongani Molasi a couple of days before the fight and a couple of days after the fight, and really, yeah, it was an amazing fight.
Makazole Tete had a good points-like win over Armando Torres for the IBO Intercontinental Flyweight Championship. There's talk of him fighting Maruti Mtalani. Do you think that fight should happen?
Wow, it's maybe a bit early. It's maybe a bit early.
What's your opinion?
I think Maruti Mtalani, I don't know how much time he's got left. I think Makazole Tete should probably just stay away, judging from last Friday's performance.
Matt Butsunyabi put on a decent performance. Sidney Malaleka, let's talk about his performance. He could have beaten MacBot, couldn't he have?
I think he could have beaten him. It was just too much showboating and unnecessary stuff. If he had taken the fight a little more seriously, he might have been able to pull off a win.
Let's go back to the heavyweight division, and I'm going to ask you this last question before we close off. Deontay Wilder, Al Heyman, who do you put him up against and why?
Well, it's a hard question, actually. But looking at the current scene, you'll probably have to pick one of the Russian heavyweights and put him up against one of those guys. They're tough, but he needs that step up. I mean, Povetkin's the guy that everyone's looking at right now. That's the fight to make.
Let's talk about that. How does he go against Povetkin?
I think Povetkin would beat him.
Povetkin wins.
Can you guys ever disagree? Right here on Hot Boxing Talk. So as you can see, it's Chris Van Heerdan talking to us at Hot Boxing Talk. Chris, first and foremost, welcome back home. Proudly African.
Thank you, Colin.
Let's talk about you. You're coming off a loss that it hurts. I mean, losing hurts.
You know what? It's even though I've got two losses on my record. This is my first real loss.
Yes.
You know, my first loss. I never lost. This is the first loss. I'm not used to this, and it hurts. Like you say, you know what? This is a feeling that I never want to feel again. It really hurts. I'm still battling with it. I'm still battling with it, but in a positive way. No.
So you're a former IBO champion of the world and a former IBF international champion. I think the question on everyone's mind is what's next for Chris, because Africa's your home. This is your home, but you've made a mark in American boxing to a point. What is next? What do you want for yourself?
Well, obviously I want to get back on winning ways. You know what? The next step will be to pick the right fights. You know, to get me back on the winning ways. But I'm in a tough position now as my promoter just passed away. And the company officially 2 weeks ago closed their doors. So
that's King Sports.
That's King Sports. So I'm without a promoter right now. And being in America, coming off a loss, that's not the best position to be in. So I'm going back in 4 weeks' time and see what I got to do. Do I come back? Do I stay? And see what the plan from there on.
Yeah. So that was actually my next question. Do you want to fight back in South Africa?
You know what? I haven't fought in front of my South African people for 3 years now. I'm used to walking into an arena where 2,000-3,000 people cheer you on, the heat. The last 2 years, 3 years, I've been fighting in front of people that it's dead as a mouse. And it's tough, you know, it changes. The people in your corner changes, and I do want to fight in front of my people again. I got to think about my career. Where am I going to make money? I cannot be on a hold. I got to move forward. See what's happening out there.
So let's talk about you in your personal capacity. Do you have a girlfriend back in America?
I don't.
That accent doesn't turn those ladies on, no?
Nah. Well, I wouldn't say it doesn't turn them on, but I'm still single.
Talk to me about your dad, who is a very influential person in your career. I know that you're very close to him. I see your dad at shows here and there, and he's always saying, have you spoken to Chris? And he's very proud of you. You've also got siblings who are boxing. What's that like being so far away from your father?
Yeah, you know what, like you just said, you know, my dad's my best friend. My dad is my biggest supporter. I'm used to have my dad at my fights, every fight my dad would be, and not having my dad there, it plays a role on me. You know, my dad is, you know, he's getting the 60s. He's, you know, he's a hard-working man, you know, and yeah, so you know, I miss my dad, and I miss being around my dad, and my biggest fear is to not be here and something should go wrong. That is my biggest fear.
Let's go back to your career now. Errol Spence. No disgrace losing to a guy like that, who I believe is very talented and will be a world champion in the near future. Did you expect such a hard fight from him?
You know what? No. Errol Spence is the real deal. You know what? Yes, I lost to a real good fighter, but I also know that I'm 10 times better than I was on that night. That was just not my night. You know, mentally I was defeated, and the only thing I wanted to do is, you know what, going into that fight, I kind of already knew that I'm not going to win it. That's what I mean. Mentally I got beaten, but I wanted to show that he's not going to knock me out on my jaw. Yes, he dropped into a beautiful body shot in round 7. I got back up. The best thing was to take a knee. The fight would have gone 10 rounds. He wasn't going to knock me out. But good call from the referee stopping it, because I wasn't doing anything back. I was just protecting myself. Errol Spence, the boy can punch. You know what, Errol Spence knocked out Adrian Broner in sparring. Mayweather said he's the guy that gave him the toughest time in sparring. I believe Errol Spence will be the next pound for pound pay-per-view world champion.
Let's go back even further now. It's time for you to kind of go back to the drawing board. You accept that. And I'm not trying to promote a fight here on Hot Boxing Talk, but the IBO championship that you held once is held by a guy called Siko Movoleti. I'm sure you've read articles about him upsetting Ali Funeka. How would you go against a guy like that?
I would just beat him. That's my belt. You know, it was taken from me. You know what? I respect any fighter. You know what? I've learned my ways. I respect any fighter. He's a champion. Okay, he beat Ali Funeka. He's a champion. But he's not in my league.
Last question. If you had one fight right now, who would it be against and why?
One fight right now.
Any fight. I mean, you know.
Brandon Rios. Freddie believes he's just a bum now, you know, taking it. And I know what I'm capable of. I know when I'm on my game, quick movement, high work rate, that is me. You know, and I know if everything goes right, I can beat a guy like Brandon Rios.
A message to the Hot Boxing Talk fans who are watching this.
I just want to say thank you for all the support, thank you for all the love. This was my first real loss. I'm not lying down, I'm back in the gym. First time ever training here with Colin in Colin's gym was exciting, it was fun. I will be back on winning ways, and thank you for all the support and all the love.
It's a real hot day here at the Hot Box Gym. I'm sitting next to the Heat, Chris Van Heerdan, talking to us on Hot Boxing Talk. Well, that's the end of the 15th episode of Hot Boxing Talk. From myself, Colin, Nomaganjani, Nathan, and Hayden Jones, we will see you for the 60th episode of Hot Boxing Talk.